Welcome back to Intentional Excellence Elevate Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Candice Ruggiero. I'm a keynote speaker, aspiring author, podcast and live show host, educator, and entrepreneur. And as always, this podcast is about inspiring intentionality in every aspect of our life, whether it's personal growth, leadership, or navigating life's challenges with purpose and resilience. We are continuing with our Solo and Strong series where we highlight powerful stories of single parents who are thriving, not just surviving. And being a single parent comes with challenges, but it also brings incredible opportunities for growth, strength, and transformation. This series is about embracing that journey with purpose and confidence. Tonight, I'm honored to have Kat Schwarz with us. She is a holistic healer, a coach, and the founder of Compassionate Healing Services, a mental health company in Medford, New Jersey. That takes a radically different approach to mental wellness. Before we dive in, let me share a little bit about Kat's incredible background. After nearly 20 years as a physical therapist, a personal mental health crisis, and profound spiritual awakening led Kat to reevaluate traditional mental health care, seeing how the system often fails highly sensitive and empathic individuals, contributing to worsening suicide and addiction rates. She shifted her focus to trauma informed, holistic healing. And as a Reiki master of masters, complex trauma specialist, investigative medium, mindfulness teacher, and empowerment coach, she brings a deeply personal and transformative approach to healing. She also serves as an original member of NJEA. It's a state task force on adverse childhood experiences. It helps address the long term effects of childhood trauma. But above all, she is a dedicated single mother to her two sons, Ben and Charlie, whom she credits with saving her life. To all my viewers, help me in welcoming Kat to the show. Hi, Kat.
Hi, Candice. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was lovely.
Thank you. And Kat, did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything more about yourself that you want the viewers to know?
I'll just clarify NJEA stands for New Jersey Education Association.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Yes.
And I like the way later on during the conversation, if you could explain more exactly what you do. All
Yeah,
right. I would love to learn more about that. All right. Are you ready? You're good?
I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it.
Yay! All right. By the way, Kat is joining us from New Jersey, and I'm here in Florida. All right. So, Kat,
Vastly
the
different
first,
climates.
I know, and I just
You're
wanted to let
sweating and
everyone know.
snowing outside right now.
Oh no, I used to live in New York, and I completely understand how you feel. But
Yes.
I've been here for 3 years, and I must say, I miss the cold weather. I
Me
do.
too.
Like, yeah, I would go back. I would go back if I could.
I'm from New York as well, and I've always lived in a four-season climate, so it would be
Yeah.
strange for me not to, for
Which
sure.
which borough were you?
Long Island.
Long Island. I was in Westchester.
Yes, but
Yeah.
without the accent. I said my
I know.
without the accent. I'm very proud of that, by the way.
Oh. All right. Okay, so I have my accent, which isn't. It's like a Filipino accent. All right.
Much
All
better than
right.
a
The
Long
first.
Island accent, I promise.
Say that again.
Much better than a Long Island accent.
Oh, come on, come on! Don't say that to Joey of Friends. How are you? How are you? What's that? How are you
How you
today?
doing?
How you doing? I love the Bronx. I love the pastries in the Bronx because my husband is Italian. My husband who passed away was Italian. We would go to this very nice Italian pastry store in the Bronx. Oh my gosh, so good. Right? Sorry.
I
Okay.
miss the
So
food. I definitely miss the food from New York for sure.
yeah, yeah, I need to go
Okay.
back. All right. So let's talk about the first part of the show, wherein we'll talk about resilience through life challenges. Kat, your journey is a powerful testament. to resilience. You've faced personal and professional challenges that completely transform your career and your mindset. What has helped you build resilience during difficult times? And Kat, what advice would you give to others trying to find strength in adversity?
Yeah, well, for me personally, building resilience took breaking away from what everyone, and I mean my family, my friends, my doctors, and even my therapist told me that I should do,
Okay.
and have the courage to really live a life that felt much more authentic to me instead. By the time I was 38, I had lived my life primarily for other people. And I think a lot of people, especially women, can relate to that. And as a consequence, I was suffering deeply with anxiety, crushing depression, bipolar mania, and even suicidal thoughts. And I was raised in a religious family, specifically
Okay.
Catholic, and it was unfortunately a very chronically stressful, neglectful, and even
Mhm.
abusive environment. And a lot of that toxicity was never having my thoughts and feelings and experiences validated by my family. In fact, I was told by my older brother every day, no one cares what you have to say. And really, what that led to was me being quiet and,
Right?
obeying and going along to get along. But in order to keep the peace, it came very much at the expense of my inner peace, right? Which is too high a price to pay, right?
Yes.
And I also, as much as I was um, obeying my family's rules, or so they thought, I was also very rebellious. I
Okay.
taking matters into my own hands and really doing dangerous things. I lived in a pretty unsafe neighborhood on Long
Okay.
Island, and I would sneak out of the house at late hours. I started drinking alcohol when I was very young. I even started driving cars long before it was legal for me to do
Oh
so.
my goodness.
And so that there were absolutely red flags, I guess, but no one suspected a thing because I was very high achieving.
Okay.
I had gotten a 4.0 all the way through graduate school. I started working, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Right. It's okay.
I started working when I was 11 years old to earn extra money, and
Okay.
and the fact that I was always able to um, perform in school and follow the rules, no one really suspected the things that I was doing that were dangerous. But
Okay.
like most kids, when you don't feel seen and heard, and you feel like the rules that are being imposed upon you are too strict, you rebel.
Right.
Right? So that was very much a part of my life. And my advice to others would be to be more concerned with how the people and in the environments around you make you feel, as opposed to
Right.
how life looks on the outside. Because to the outside world, by the time I was 38, I quote unquote had it all. I was
Right.
mom of two kids. I was married. I had the house. I had the fence. I had the dogs. I had the physical therapy career. And yet I was literally dying inside. So it's it's really about making hard choices. And I don't suggest that you get to the point of suicidality before you make these hard choices. But for me, it took a lot of hard choices around the people and the people, places, and things that really deserved a place in my life. And that was a very isolating decision for sure.
Kat, I wanted to like ask you, you did say it happened when you were like late or like in your 30s, right? So did this stem from like already like a childhood like trauma, or were you growing up, you had some difficulties and it like rolled over to how, because you were already married. You're already married and you still have that internal conflict with you. Is it more of like a family thing because acceptance, or is it because it's like embedded because of your family upbringing, or maybe a culturally affected? So I'm just, I mean, I just want to understand because like at that point at 30, like we have so many responsibilities, which is our family. So for you to still have that internal thing, like, can you like tell me more about it? Is it part of like growing up?
Well, great question. I would have considered my mental health normal. I would have used the word
Okay.
normal well into my 30s. And it really wasn't until and again, it was because I was so high achieving. I
Yeah.
associated mental illness with, you know, problems
Perfection.
functioning in life,
Okay.
right?
All right.
I didn't view myself as mentally ill because there was no goal that I'd ever put in front of myself that I hadn't achieved. But
Okay.
it wasn't until I became a mom when I was 31 years old that the facade started to crumble around me because it started with my first son and I had a very difficult time with breastfeeding, and that was very
Okay.
demoralizing, and very upsetting. And I started really crying every single day. And so I was diagnosed with postpartum depression,
Yes,
which
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
right? And that diagnosis made sense to me at the time. But looking back, I've been depressed and anxious since I was 6 years old. As I said, I grew up in a household that was
Right.
chronically toxically
Right.
stressful and neglectful and abusive. So depression and anxiety had become such a normal part of my life and body that I didn't even recognize it as abnormal, right? If you've
Right.
always
Right.
lived with something or always felt some way, it just becomes your normal.
Right.
So
Right.
I started again with the diagnosis of postpartum depression. And then 3 years later, when my younger son was born, his birth was traumatic. And
Okay.
that's when my anxiety became out of control. And I really wasn't able to function at that point without medication. But
Okay.
despite seeing a therapist every week, despite taking all these different classes of pharmaceuticals that I was being prescribed, my mental health was getting worse and worse and worse. At the same time, my marriage started to fall apart, my friend group started to fall apart, and ultimately, I had a 6-day manic episode, and I was told that I was bipolar, and I was told that I would need to take these medications, these mood
Okay.
stabilizers, for the rest of my life.
Okay.
If you've ever been on mood stabilizers, they're awful medications.
Okay.
The side
Okay.
effects are worse than the disease they're supposedly treating. I felt like a zombie, essentially. And
Yes.
that's when the suicidal thoughts got really, really loud because it felt
Okay.
hopeless. It felt
Yes.
hopeless. So looking back, like I said, the I really started suffering with my mental health when I was 6 years old, but it
Okay.
got to a crisis point when I was in
All
my
right.
30s. And the first piece of the puzzle was the fact that the same psychiatrist that had originally told me I was bipolar, and the reason she said that is because again I did have a 6-day manic episode.
Right. Right.
She took the time and really listened to my story and said, you know what, I think the more correct diagnosis for you is complex PTSD. And that shocked me.
Wow. First
Because
time I've heard that.
exactly.
So
I
do you
mean,
think it still stems from the pregnancy, like the postpartum, or do you think you've had that all this time?
the complex PTSD I've had since I was a child.
Okay.
And
All right.
it shocked me as well because number one, it's still not well known. I mean, I'm talking about 2017,
Right.
what, 7 years later, and it's still not even in the DSM, which is the gold standard of psychiatric diagnoses. And I
Right.
associated PTSD with soldiers returning from war,
Right. Right.
first
Oh,
responders, right?
right.
It didn't resonate with me until I understood that more foster kids are diagnosed with complex PTSD than soldiers returning from battle.
Wow.
And it started to reframe in my mind what I had been through as a child and just how
Profound.
destructive it had
Deep.
been,
Right.
right? Because you live in a household in which abuse, neglect, and toxic stress are just a daily reality, it's
Right.
like marinating a child in trauma. And
Right.
when your nervous system is developing, that's when you need those healthy interactions, or else it
Right.
has a long-term impact on your nervous system. So, yeah, looking back, I've had complex PTSD since I was a child. It just didn't start to manifest in ways that
Right.
were truly
Right.
disruptive to my life until I was in my 30s and I became a mom.
And also, like to add to what you said, I feel that yes, you did have that PTSD, post traumatic PTSD while you were young, but you never recovered from it. Like because, like because you were in an environment where it's constantly what you said abusive. There's just so many changes, so there's really no chance for you to heal that part. And then at the same time, you are such a high achiever, so like being a high achiever could like if other people hear you say I'm a high achiever, you think it's something positive, but the fact that you are putting yourself in that pedestal also creates some form of stress. You know what I mean? Like just for you in order to become that, I want this grade. You said you have 4.0. And that expectation you put on yourself is
Right.
already like, it's tough. It's tough.
Perfectionism is a trauma
It
response.
is. And it's
Right?
something that you put on yourself. Like,
Yes.
I don't think anybody dictates it. So it's harder to heal because you're the one putting that restriction or expectations on you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you ultimately put it on yourself. But I mean, I did come from a family, like as much as I would get the 4.0, if I brought home a 96%, I mean,
Were they,
they may have been kidding, but they would say like, "Oh, what happened to the other 4 points?" I mean, there was
whoa.
an expectation there of
Okay.
perfection that was put upon me, and then ultimately I took on as my own. But, when you're afraid to make mistakes, that's not a good thing.
That's hard. No. Were you even celebrated when whenever you bring home like a 4.0? Were you even celebrated by your family?
It was expected, I
It
mean,
was
it
just an
was yeah, it was just
expectation.
an expectation. And honestly, the more annoying part, it wasn't an expectation placed on my brother because my brother simply wasn't capable of those grades. They were celebrating if he passed his classes. So, I
Oh
mean,
my
it definitely
goodness.
felt unfair for sure.
Right, right, right. Well, also when you first said that you were diagnosed with bipolar, I was like, I raised my eyebrow, like, because like I know what bipolar is. I'm not, I don't have it, but I do, like, I do know of a family member who had that, and I know the symptoms. And when you were explaining it, I'm like, that's not bipolar. So when you finally said that I do have the complex PTSD, okay,
Yeah.
I think that's more like it. And
Yeah.
then you even said that it's something common with foster kids.
Right. Well, meaning that foster kids are much more likely to grow up in environments that were abusive, right? Or they would not
Yes.
have been removed from their homes in the first place. And then unfortunately, not every foster family is a good fit, either. So, I mean, looking back, I have experienced hypomanic episodes since I was a child.
Okay.
I actually credit that with the fact that I was a 4.0 student because I could do things like study for 14 hours straight with no sleep. So, I
Wow.
mean, it helped me in the academic world, but ultimately, the way I view it now, and, this is going a little deeper into my story, but
Okay.
after my spiritual awakening, which happened a year and a half after my complex PTSD diagnosis, when I understood that I had extrasensory perceptual gifts,
Okay.
specifically clairsentience, which is the ability to feel energy, it helped me completely reframe what they were calling bipolar disorder because I
Okay.
do have the ability to feel energy, and energy literally moves my body. But when it was ungrounded, and when I thought that I was just this physical human with this, very loud, critical, overthinking
Mm-hmm.
mind, and the energy was moving my body, that it looked a hell of a lot like bipolar mania. But
Okay.
now that I've been able to heal the trauma and really ground into my gifts and develop them, it's actually a gift. I truly believe that most
Right.
people who are
Right.
diagnosed with mental illness are actually quite gifted. The way I
Yeah.
put it,
Okay.
I used to think that I was broken and crazy, and now I know
Okay.
I'm traumatized and gifted. And that's a very different perspective. And it's a perspective that frankly saved my life.
And to be honest, I love the way you found yourself. Like, you really used your experiences and found your strength, and then in that way of you trying to figure out who you are, you found your ability to, what you said, that like you're very intuitive, or you have the capacity, so you healed yourself. You didn't need anyone. you
Right.
you had you had those gifts and strength and skills all along. And it doesn't matter if like, I believe that life challenges help us become better. And look at you now. Without you going through these challenges in life, you wouldn't know how strong you are or how powerful you are. And what such amazing gifts. You're not only able to heal yourself or help yourself, but you are able to help other people. And it's not using medication, it's not using any device or going to like the hospital. It's actually going inward and finding your strength by
Yeah.
using those powers gifted to you. And like, it's amazing. I feel like that in itself is powerful. Like,
Thank you.
very
But I
powerful.
also want to point out that while you're absolutely right, I mean, I have healed all my mental health symptoms without I take no medication at this time. I haven't had a manic episode since 2017. But what it took to get me there,
Okay.
especially financially, is it's a privilege at this point to heal
Okay.
really to the point where your symptoms are eradicated, and that should not be
Right.
the case, right? Healing shouldn't only be for the people who are financially privileged or have health
Right.
insurance, right? So, you know, I mean, I have to make a living like everybody else, and of course, my
Right.
services cost money, but ultimately, my goal is to make these healing tools as accessible as possible because things like meditation are free, right?
Right. Right.
Mindset work is free. I mean, there's so much that you can, deep breathing is free. There's so many
Yes.
things that you can do that are actually impactful that don't cost money, but they do require education and awareness. And, luckily with the internet, that's becoming a lot more accessible, but we have a long way to go for sure.
But if we are like right now, we're on a podcast. You and I are able to let viewers know that it's possible to go into to help yourself by simply going through this journey of like inward healing. It doesn't cost you anything. All you need to do is really look for the right person, accessible in the internet, and you can instantly have this way of knowing who you are as a person. You really, it doesn't have to be difficult. Sometimes you just need support, like other people helping you through your journey. And like what you said, like, the medical insurances nowadays have become so difficult or expensive, even co-pays. Even if you have insurance, co-pays are expensive, and it's also inconvenient when you have to go and drive. But now all you need to do is really find the right people, find the right support. People can learn from a simple podcast, because you know what I mean, like you and I are sharing stories, and if like three or four people resonate with what you and I are talking about, that's healing. That's free service. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So just the power of being open to other ways to heal and learn,
right.
it's right at your fingertips. Sometimes it's just right in front of you. I believe in that.
And I think what you're saying is it's really an open mindedness and an awareness that there's more to mental health treatment than just weekly talk therapy and taking medications and managing symptoms, but never actually healing from them. It is
Right.
possible to heal, but it does. And while it's not even necessarily complicated, it's fairly simple, but simple doesn't mean easy, right?
Right.
Completely changing the way that you think and
Yes.
is one of the hardest things I've ever done. But it's not complicated, it's just difficult. And it
It might
requires
be.
and it required awareness that it was even possible and that it was possible to heal using alternative methodologies.
And at some point, medications are not going to work anymore. Like,
Right.
especially if when you have these mental illness, or like you struggle with it since you were a child, or since you were a teenager, at some point, it's not going to work anymore. You need to like wean off those medications. So then when you're weaned off, then you're starting from scratch again, because you never completely healed. You've been depending on medication. So I agree with you that the best way for anyone to heal is to go inward. Really find yourself. It might be scary, just what you said, but it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever give yourself. Why do I say this? Because I just wanted to share with you that um, my husband passed away 2023, end of 2023, right? And I've always, like you, I'm a overachiever. Although, I wasn't like, I was doing it for myself, and it was more positive for me. So when I became a widow, life challenges, drastic change of everything. So what I did was, uh, people grieve, right? And it comes, it depends on you how long you grieve or how you grieve. What I did was, I changed that period of grief to healing. And think about it. It's two ways you can go when somebody is going through a defining moment in their life. It's either you grieve or you heal. And good thing at that moment, I just felt like I did grieve for maybe like what, 3 months, 4 months, wherein like I felt bad about myself. I took off from work for 5 weeks because I needed to just like accept reality. But then all of a sudden, boom, like something does just hit me that I don't want to be in this position. I don't want to be in this um place we're in, self-pity, or like I was not I didn't want to move. I was always crying, so I quickly changed that grief period to healing. It took me a year, okay? But when I started healing, I found my voice. I changed my career, 30 years, field of education, and my ultimate goal was to be a principal. And I was gonna be an assistant principal, but then all of a sudden I needed a change, which is part of my healing, Kat. I became a speaker, and I don't know, just finding my best self by using my voice, and finding using those experiences in my life that were painful to make me better, and like speaking to everyone, my followers, my viewers, about what I went through. It's just like the best feeling you can ever have when you can finally say, I've done that work. I'm at this point right now, and
Yeah.
now I am here just sharing my story, and I hope that people will know that it's okay, you can do it too. And it's the most rewarding feeling when I'm not using never use medication. When I went through that grief, I just like I just looked at what I was good at, like what I was strong at. I just really went in. Hey, I'm not this kind of person. I can be better. That's how I found myself. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
I'm sorry for your loss, and you're very inspirational, Candace. I'm so happy that you're doing this, and because what really kills us is shame. When we hold on to shame
yes,
and grief, and we don't allow those emotions to move through us, it literally causes illness. Whether it's
right,
mental illness or physical illness, and to your point about medication, I was a physical therapist for almost 20 years, and I view medication, which I absolutely needed at the time that I was using it, and was, in many ways life-saving, including and especially once I switched the gift of my complex PTSD diagnosis was not just the awareness that what I had been
okay,
through was traumatic, and well, if the symptoms I'm experiencing are due to trauma and trauma can be healed, well, then maybe
right.
symptoms aren't life sentences like I thought they were, and that absolutely was the case. But I was able to transition off of the pharmaceuticals onto cannabis, plant medicine. And
Wow, okay, which is better, right?
it was much better, and but at the same time it's still a powerful medication, and
Okay, okay.
ultimately I was able to transition off of that as well, because I view it in a similar way to I view assistive devices as a physical
Right,
therapist.
right,
Walkers and canes are great for when you're healing, but eventually you're supposed to be strong enough that you can get off of the walker or the cane. And, that's not the typical viewpoint when it comes to medication. A lot of people believe that they need that, or are told that they need this medication for the rest of their lives. And if they don't do the inner healing work, you're right, they do. But it is possible to move the needle on your healing by, as you said,
right,
going inward and
right.
really knowing that there's a possibility of healing if you really do the hard inner work. And it's not easy. It's not easy at all. It takes tremendous amounts of strength. So I want you to acknowledge that for yourself, that you're a very, very strong person.
I don't know. I just feel that sometimes you'll just wake up and you want change in your life. It could be small change, it could be big change. I did not ever thought that I would be a speaker. It just landed on my Facebook page, a sponsored ad. Like when things are given to you, be open to accept. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't know, like you are being led to do something different in your life, and change is good. I do believe, Kat, that change is good. Sometimes you're stuck in this time in your life where and you're doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes you just need one little change or big change.
Yeah.
Be open to accepting, because Change. I love change, and it
It's
just helps you.
the only constant in life is change, right? I mean,
Right,
we
right.
are meant to grow and change, and when we refuse to grow and change, we remain stuck. And that's your choice. You can remain stuck, but don't expect to feel good at the same
Right,
time,
I know.
right?
And then, like what you said, you can keep taking medications. It could be plant based, it could be the holistic one, but it's still, you're still dependent on something. It's still not you doing things on your own. You're still depending on something. And come on, whatever you say, there are going to be side effects as you get older. There are going to be side effects. The more we rely on these medications, there are going to be side effects, no matter what, you know?
Right. And especially in the mental health world, one of the few medications that really helped me was Xanax. It would help
Right.
me
Wow,
with my
that's really
anxiety,
strong.
which was so severe that, I could barely function. I could barely get out of bed. And
Mm-hmm.
if I missed a dose of Xanax, I would throw up every 6 hours on the hour.
Wow.
But the thing is, as much as the medication helped me, I then discovered that you can literally die just from the withdrawal
Yes.
off of benzodiazepines. And it was and I had another experience with a mood stabilizer in which I wasn't having suicidal thoughts when I started the mood stabilizer, and by the time I got to the third week they had come back fast and furious. And
Oh my.
it turned out that this medication was known for that. It was known for causing suicidal thoughts, and this medication is still on the market. I saw a commercial for it just the other day. It's terrifying what
They,
doctors
yeah.
will prescribe to people as if it's healthy
It's
or
your only choice.
and it can literally kill you.
And they probably have like a warning sign, maybe this small. And this is the box. It's this small, just to protect
Yeah,
themselves. But
exactly.
you know
It's
what?
really
M-
important.
m- more and more people just need to speak up. We need more of this. We need more of you talking about your journey in finding your healing ability. So let's talk about that. So I really want to know more about that because that's a very powerful way to heal. So let's. I know that you're a founder of this compassionate healing services and you're deeply committed to helping others heal. But you also have personal responsibilities as a mom and as an individual. Now, Kat, how do you maintain balance between your work, passion, and personal life without feeling overwhelmed?
Well, I will say, as a divorced mom with 50-50 custody with my kids, that does make it a little bit easier
Okay.
because,
Okay.
my kids, while they're the most important people in my life and they're the most important job that I have is raising them, they're by far, far from my only job. And they certainly don't pay the bills, right? So,
Oh, yes.
but because I share custody with their dad, I do try to be present for them when we're
Okay.
together. And, and then when they're with their dad, I also try not to completely schedule myself, overschedule myself with
Okay.
work. I do try to maintain that balance both with them and when they're with their father because, um, my let's face it, motherhood and entrepreneurship are exhausting.
It is. It is.
Right? And one of the biggest shifts that I've made is the understanding that rest is productive.
Right. Right.
Like we've
Right.
talked about perfectionism already. And when you're a perfectionist and you think you have to do it all and you think you have to be the perfect employee or the perfect wife and the perfect mother and the perfect everything, right? It's
Yes.
soul sucking. It really is. So allowing myself to rest, allowing maybe my house not to be perfectly in order, right, at all
Right.
times. Is has actually helped me be more productive. And I
Okay.
also have come to the understanding that we get a heck of a lot more done from when our actions come from a place of inspiration as
Right.
opposed to
Right.
motivation, right?
Yes. Yes. Very
When you're
powerful.
doing what you think you should do or what other people expect of you, you're going to burn out a lot quicker
Right.
than when you're
Right.
taking the time, allowing yourself to rest, allowing yourself to be imperfect,
Right. Yes.
and then your actions come from that place of inspiration, and you get far further from that than you do from pushing yourself too hard. In general, of course there's exceptions to this rule, but if I really don't feel like doing something, I generally don't force myself to do it.
Same here. I am now lucky that I'm working from home, and um, the balancing was hard in the beginning because, like, imagine transitioning from a 30-year career of being in a school environment now being home. Believe me, I struggled, right? But
Mhm.
just like you, when you're an entrepreneur, you're a single mom now, good thing my kids are older, like they're in college, and I have one who's a young professional. I don't know how young your kids are, but at least I have more time for myself. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're really doing the marketing. You're doing the actual looking, the social media presence because of my work. I'm doing script. I'm writing a book. I'm looking for clients. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I don't do anything for that day, then oh my god, like how am I gonna find my clients, how am I gonna find for engagement, how am I, what I mean? But then, like what you said, part of healing is finding that day, if I don't want to do anything, I'm gonna take a break, I'm gonna rest, what I mean? I owe it to myself to take that moment just to me myself. If I want to stay in bed like half of the day, I don't care. That's the way I heal. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to, like, you know what? Work is gonna be there. Work is at least we're not like clocking in and out. We have the option now of working from home, and then maybe the next day we'll just double our workload, right? Just if you feel that like you're guilty, like you didn't work for a day because you found time for yourself. So
Right.
like what you said, it's a constant balancing act when you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and yeah, and a mom and everything.
And I think that's what balance looks like. Balance doesn't look like doing the same thing day in and day out. It's, some days are, heavy on the rest, other days are heavy on the work, some days are heavy on the parenting, other days are heavy on the, um, personhood, right? Just being true to yourself
Right.
and I already mentioned that I have I'm a spiritual girl. That's not a secret at this point. And truly what I've come to understand is when we take the time to rest and when we meditate and we're really in the present moment and we're not stuck in cycles of worry and fear and regret, when we're really tuned into our higher self, that inspiration that I'm talking about is coming from your higher self.
Yes.
If you're not sure what's best to do next, take a break and really tune into yourself and ask yourself and your higher guidance what's best for me to do next. And if the answer is rest, keep resting. And if the answer is do this specific task, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense to your logical mind, if you are continually following your intuition, which is what I'm talking about,
Right.
and doing the next best thing for yourself, you're going to notice your results are greater. That client that comes in out of nowhere is your ideal client.
Right.
Right? Or that show you're on gets, or that social media post gets way more engagement than typical, right? Because you actually took the time to tune in,
Right. Right.
ask yourself and only yourself what's the next best thing, and have the courage to take that step. And when I say it's courageous, because we tend to be, and this is not the case for me anymore, but we tend to be
Right.
surrounded by people, even extremely well-meaning people in our lives, that are going to project their fear onto us. Oh, you're not
Right.
doing
Right.
enough. Or, oh, what are you going to do about this bill, or what are you going to do about that? And
It
when
triggers you.
it
They trigger
triggers you.
you.
It triggers you. Like, actually having the courage to listen to yourself above anybody else has been probably the greatest gift of my healing.
You know what? I love speaking with you because, like,
Likewise.
when I went to, like on this healing journey, right? I just found about it on my own. Like, I didn't read a book, I didn't go on anything. But I feel that when you're at the point wherein you're starting to get to know who you are, then you know what's best for you. All right, on my own, I found out that, hey, I can be mindful. I can be presently here at the moment in whatever I do. So part of my healing is being mindful without even anyone, like a professional, telling me about there's a such thing as being mindful. I just started doing it.
Right.
Meditation. I just like, I'm a very, I always think, I've always been a thinker, which is, could be a positive thing about me. It could also be something like, you know, like I struggle with, but sometimes I find the time to just silence my head and my brain and just, it then I found out about meditation when I just, you just need a break. So I started with like 3 minutes, just like putting my phone down and just really like, just, trying to close my eyes. Now I can do it for 20 minutes. And I've been doing it, what, 20, like 2, 3 times a day, not because I'm scheduled to do it. It's just, I feel like, okay, all right, I'm triggered right now. Like I just want a break, or not just that, just when I want to be grateful, when I want to pray, or I want to be grateful, I just find the time to silence my mind and head. And I didn't know that I was meditating by doing that. You know what I mean? And I want to piggyback on what you said. Part of healing, or part of being, finding your best self, is really letting go of people or situation that no longer serve you. If
Absolutely.
they are, there are people that trigger you to again go back to that cycle wherein you feel bad about yourself, they're not really helping you in with your path moving forward, they're so negative, they're so toxic. Let go. I've learned to let go of so many people, Kat. You know what I
Me too.
mean?
Oh, I
I mean,
get
I
it.
will help, let's help them because they are our friends. But if it's too like toxic and ingrained, I gotta take care of myself first.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
don't think it's a bad
absolutely.
thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. I mean, the only people that are going to tell you it's a bad thing are the people who were benefiting from the unhealed version of you.
Right,
The
right,
one who, the person who was people pleasing, right? And
right,
and in perfectionism mode, including within friendships and things like that. The people that
right,
actually care about you are going to encourage you to go inward. And and
right.
I love that you discovered on your own about the power of mindfulness and meditation. For me, I had actually tried yoga 7 times, and I thought I hated yoga. And
Okay,
a big part of that was that I was doing it for weight loss, and I was
okay.
doing it for, I was doing it in 100-degree rooms
Oh,
that
I,
that
oh,
made me
I
feel
do that.
my
I used to
stomach.
do that too.
Yeah, it was that part wasn't for me. And most interestingly, I would get to the very end of the class, and the last 5 minutes of a yoga class is called Shavasana, and essentially
Okay.
it's a deep
It's
meditation.
like you just lay down, and
You
then like
literally just
the instructor,
Shavasana translates to corpse pose because you're supposed to just kind of lay there like a corpse
like
and
nothing. Uh-huh.
be right. And that's actually the culmination. It's the whole point of the yoga, is to get to that meditative space. And I remember I used to, like, that last 5 minutes, I was so anxious. I'd be like, why is everyone just laying here? I got places to go and people to see. I mean, I hated that part.
Wow.
So then fast forward, when I was going through my mental health crisis, I had started doing something called intuitive eating, and I had
Okay.
really deconstructed my ideas about dieting. And that's kind of an entire different podcast, but suffice it to say that I I joined a gym when my kids were very little, and I was no longer interested in, like, I was somebody who used to go to the gym and have to burn 800 calories before I would leave, or that was my conditioning.
Right.
Right. And I had broken up with that part of myself. So when
Okay.
I joined this new gym, I I saw the yoga studio in the back of it, and I said, you know what, I'll give it one more shot,
All
right?
right.
And this time I did more of the yin style of yoga, which is very meditative. I
Okay.
mean,
All right.
it was pretty much an hour of meditation, and as hard as it was, and it was very hard because my mind was very loud,
Constantly working. Yeah.
constantly going. By sticking with it, I couldn't deny that at the end of that class, I felt so much better. It was like the anxiety in my body had lifted, and anxiety had become such a part of my body that when it went away
All
without Xanax
right.
and alcohol, which were the only other two solutions I had found prior to meditation and yoga,
Okay.
it was
Right.
almost shocking. Like, wait a second. So, this constant feeling of vibration and kind of dread in my body isn't a fixed state. Like, I can
Right.
release this and I can release this through breathing and through
Right.
meditation. So that actually preempted me to go to yoga teacher training because I was so fascinated. I said, like, I need to understand how deep breathing is making me feel
Right.
better
Right.
than alcohol, you know? And that's actually how I got started with my company. The original name of my company was Zen Mom Yoga because I
Okay.
never intended to teach yoga to fellow stressed out moms because, it was so, I would say, transformative for me to understand that I had the power to control my emotions through meditation, through deep
Right.
breathing, through
Right.
these yoga poses. And that was something that, I could bring out into my daily life, right? We don't do yoga or meditation to get better at yoga. We do it to get better at life.
Right.
You know?
You know, your journey really has shown that healing isn't just about addressing trauma, but actively maintaining your well-being. And I know we already talked about some of the ways that we can maintain our, well-being, be it emotional or mental. We talked about the mindfulness and everything like that. I know in the beginning I read in, I when I shared about your bio, we talked it was mentioned that you are Reiki master of the masters. Correct me if I'm wrong. Talk to us about more of that because it's
Yeah.
really another way not just to heal but to find yourself. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of the advantages of like not using medications, instead going inward. Can you talk to us more about that? It might help
Yeah.
a lot of people. Yeah.
For sure. Well, Reiki, and I want to say that until I was 38 years old or possibly 39, I'm not, so in my late 30s, I was raised Catholic and
Okay.
my faith had died along with my father when I was 21 years old. And for the next
Okay.
18 years, I was very atheistic, very, very
Okay.
skeptical. So I believed, I didn't believe in things like Reiki. I didn't believe in mediumship. I didn't believe really in anything supernatural. I was very much, if you couldn't prove it to me with the scientific method, I wasn't going to believe you.
Okay.
I do honor any skeptics that are listening, but when I had my spiritual awakening, which happened at a mediumship workshop, the medium was the first person to tell me that Reiki was a very important part of my healing and spiritual
Okay.
development. And I started with a Reiki 1 attunement in 2019, and by 2022, I had my Reiki Master of Masters, which is the highest level of attunement. And what I immediately noticed was not just in for myself that it was, I felt so much more at peace, and the fact that I could do
Right.
Reiki on myself on a daily basis, it just became it really another mindfulness practice for me.
Right. Yeah.
But what was stunning to me was the results that I saw in my physical therapy clients. I mean, I went from being a very good physical therapist to a magical healer.
Wow.
With
Okay.
one, and I will say a Reiki attunement is a very simple process. I can attune you to Reiki 1 in about 2 minutes.
And you
It's a
don't use any gadget. You don't, it's just
no.
really your mind being, like nothing artificial that you're using, right?
No, yeah. I mean the
Wow.
attunement, I mean the Reiki master, you have to be at least a Reiki master in order to attune somebody else to Reiki 1. And the Reiki master, we use symbols that, are only known to Reiki masters.
Right.
And and even from a distance, we can attune your hands to this incredibly high frequency Reiki energy. So Reiki is the Japanese word for life force energy.
Okay.
And you can think about it as really the frequency of unconditional love.
Okay.
And
Yes.
we aren't just physical bodies and overthinking minds. We are at our core source energy. And by supplementing your health and wellness with energy healing, it's so much more holistic because I, I wound up
Yes.
I wound up actually walking away from my career in physical therapy in 2021 once I understood that all physical issues, whether it's
Can
pain,
be healed. Can be
disease,
healed by, yeah.
anything is actually the end result of blocked energies and
Okay, yes.
emotions and traumas that haven't been healed. So it started to feel for me to just focus on the physical body. The analogy I use is it was like calling the fire department to a home and having them blow the smoke around rather than actually putting out the
Yes.
right? So when I understood that the root cause of physical issues is energetic blockages, it made perfect sense for me to really focus on the energy healing aspect of it.
And I don't know where I read this or who told me that sometimes cancer is caused by too much stress, or just that, I mean, like, I don't know if there's like a medical explanation for that, but when you are so stressed or you're so anxious, it really gives you an imbalance in your body that creates more issues, like one on top of the other. So just like what you said, what's the best way to be healthy, but by being emotionally, mentally, and physically well. And you can do that on your own. And that's just another step of going inward, is your process that you're using. People can use other things. So whatever works for you. But for anyone to be totally not dependent on medication or equipment or devices, that's a big achievement in your life if you can finally do that. And do you also teach your clients how to become Reiki masters so that eventually they can do it on their own? Like, how does that work? Because I
Right.
just feel that there's a long term um, benefit to it.
Yeah, well, anyone who joins my empath empowerment program, which is my core offer, is at the end of 6 months will be attuned to both Reiki 1 and Reiki 2.
Wow.
So Reiki 1, you
Wow.
can do healing on yourself and others. Reiki 2, you can send energy at a distance. And to your point about cancer specifically, so my own father passed away from lung cancer when I was
Okay, I'm
21.
sorry.
Thank you. He was 54. And
That's young. Wow.
very young, and he passed, like I said, from lung cancer. About 12 years prior to his death, his older brother passed away very suddenly
Oh,
from a heart attack.
okay.
And my father never properly grieved his brother's death. He really didn't. I mean,
Okay.
it was a
Okay.
huge loss, and I never saw my father cry before that day. And to a large degree, he was never the same. And after my spiritual awakening and my understanding of the chakra system and how energy works, I learned that we store grief in our lungs.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
for my father to have never properly grieved the loss of his brother and then, 12 years later or so die of lung cancer, that's not a coincidence.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't even run in your family. And
No,
that.
no. And yes, he smoked, but he actually quit 17 years before his diagnosis. So, I mean, and I want to be careful because of course once you're at the point where you have cancer, the medical interventions that are being recommended to you might very well be necessary and might be life-saving, and it's not enough, right? You have to
Right.
get
Right.
to the root cause of why that cancer appeared in the first place. The place of the primary origin of your cancer absolutely will correspond to a chakra level,
Right.
and you can start to work again more holistically, not just the
Right.
medical
Right.
side of things, but actually adding in energy healing and doing things like mindfulness and deep breathing and yoga and meditation, and that will help. I mean, there's no guarantees because once you get to the point where you have cancer in the body, obviously this is an issue that's gone unaddressed for a very long period of
Right.
time. But I would absolutely recommend that anyone, no matter what health challenge that you're dealing with, add in energy healing. I mean, it can't hurt, and it could really, really help.
And to add to what you said, why wait for that time wherein you will have those illnesses with you? Start now. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with us is we don't find ways right now to calm ourselves, to go inward, go use the things that you've been saying. We wait. So when life challenges, sickness happens to us, sometimes it's too late. So while you're healthy now, take care of your mind, take care of your soul, take care of your body, and don't wait for that moment wherein you're actually getting sick. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because like what you said, when you're now, when somebody tells you have cancer, you might need that medical attention now. You might need that process of like chemotherapy, because that's at that moment, that's what you need. But why not go deeper and prevent those things from happening? And you can only do that by finding yourself, whether through healing, that what you said, or whether through the energy, finding your energy, anything that could just prevent it from happening. And right now, the best way is really focusing on those physical, mental, and emotional well being. Whether it's mindfulness, whether it's positive affirmation, manifesting a good life, or groundedness. People don't realize how important these things to having a stable, healthy life.
Yeah.
And I want to add, Kat, to like what I'm doing in my podcast. I talk a lot about authenticity. It's also one of my keynote talk.
I was
Why?
going to say the word that we're looking for is authenticity. You stole the word right out of my mouth.
Yeah, but we may have a different view. This is my view of authenticity. Authenticity for me is someone going through the toughest part of their life, a defining moment, the ugliest part of their life, and using those things to help you become better. You know what I mean? When you're at the point wherein you find you call yourself authentic, it's not because, oh, I'm so, I don't have any problem. I am financially, emotionally, physically, like, rich or well. No, you are authentic because you went through all these challenges in your life, and you became who you are because of all these things. So when people call me authentic, it's because I went through all these trials in my life. That's me. So when you hear me speak in one of my keynote talk, I just hope that people will know that, wow, wow, I can be like her. I can be up on stage talking, because just like her, we all will go through life experiences and challenges. It's up to you how you are going to use it to become better, it,
Right.
in your life. And that's why I'm big with authenticity too. And hopefully more and more people will just combine all these things that we're talking about: authenticity, intentionality, the healing inward, and everything else that we've been talking about. It's free, it's right in front of you. You can do it yourself. You might need support. We have Kat here to support you, but there's nothing you can't do if you are willing to change, right? Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's possible to become authentic without, a major life event. But the reality for
True?
most
Yes.
of us is we grow far more from our painful experiences than we do from our joyful experiences. And the universe is going to give you a nudge and then a shove and then a 2x4 to the face, right?
Yes.
And you get to decide when you listen, and you get to decide when it's time for you to stop people pleasing and to start
Yes.
being more authentic to your true desires. And because the cost of not doing that is your health. It's your
Right.
mental health,
Right.
it's your physical health. It could even be your life, right? So it's while I would encourage anybody to be authentic now, regardless of what's happening, it might take a severe life event and to push you in that direction. And the universe is fine with that.
Right.
The universe doesn't care about our comfort. It only cares about our growth.
And not only that, don't care about other people. It's your life, it's your journey, it's your healing. It might be, um you might need a small, like, impact or a big impact. It doesn't matter. You know your life, you know who you are. That's all you need. That's all you need. I can wake up tomorrow and like find my strength, and that's how quickly you can find your authenticity, or like what you said, a defining moment in your life that will just totally change the way you look at things. It doesn't matter as long as you're willing to change and find the best self, your best self. When you're able to look at yourself in the mirror and love who you are, that's
Yeah.
the best feeling. I love myself. Can I tell you that, Kat? I love myself. And I can speak in front of a camera. I'm all over social media. I keep telling them how I love myself. It's because that's how you're gonna heal. You know what I mean? Like I don't see anything ugly with me. And I've just because I embraced my weaknesses and challenges that I can now proudly say and confidently say that I love myself. And it's the best feeling
Yeah.
you can
I
ever. Oh
I
my God. Like,
I
I love
agree.
it.
I
I
love
love it.
myself too, you know, you're so important for you, as you said, to stop caring what anybody else thinks of you. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business,
Yes.
right? What you're
And
doing for yourself, how you feel about yourself, is far more important than how anybody else perceives you. If you're stuck in those people pleasing tendencies, or you really care about what other people think, you're setting yourself up for failure, and like we're
yes,
talking about, possibly even disease, because we're not meant to follow anybody else's life plan
expectation.
or
Yeah.
expectations. We weren't born to please other people or follow one of my favorite quotes is that tradition is peer pressure from dead people.
Right, right, right.
Right?
And
You know,
and yeah. And Kat, I'm stepping it up. I'm I don't care. Like when I'm in front of a camera on social media, I don't care if people don't like me. I don't care if people think, "Oh, who do you think she is?" Like but like I'm also lucky that I've never experienced like a lot of like negativity. Like I've influenced a lot of people also because of my journey. But at the same time, if I do receive any comment or negativity, I don't care. If like 10% of my following or audience will resonate with what I'm saying, I've done my job. And I feel that this is my life purpose. It's just sharing my journey and like showing my authentic self in whatever way I can, through my quotes, through my videos, through my podcast. And I also do weekly live show where I talk about love, because
mm,
that's one thing that's so simple, Kat, but it's so overlooked. There's just too much hatred and negativity in our society nowadays, and it really breaks my heart. So I go on camera, streamed all over social media every Monday, and I talk about love. I don't care how you feel about me. I am going to talk about it because that's what we need. Embrace yourself. That's love. Uplift others. That's love. And show global compassion, which we lack nowadays. And that's
yes,
what I do. That's my life purpose now. And like I said, when you're at the point when you love yourself, you don't care how people perceive you. You just hope that a lot of people will will find it in themselves to
right.
find their best self, right?
And the only people that are going to project hatred and negativity and criticism onto you are people who don't love themselves.
Yes, I know.
Because when you do love yourself, a byproduct of that is you're very loving toward other people, right? Unconditionally so, So it's, even if our message reaches one person that it
I
helps, right?
agree.
It's worth it.
Agree.
It's worth it because we're being authentic in sharing what actually helped and healed us, right? It wasn't something that we read in a book. It wasn't something that someone else told us to do. It was us getting to circumstances in our lives that were, you know, that felt very debilitating, and really, and the answers weren't coming from anywhere else, so you had no choice but to go within. And I hope that we inspire others to do the same.
And to be honest, sometimes I consider myself pretty intuitive too. Sometimes I feel that the people who do not agree with you, or the people who think that you're, oh, who do you think, are the ones following you, are the ones really.
your biggest haters are actually your biggest
I
fans.
know. And you know what?
They watch everything you do, just to criticize you. And it's like,
Like
okay,
I
thanks for the view. Thanks for the engagement. You know?
like for some reason I have this feeling that the people who are like questioning who this she think he is are actually the ones who are like, I don't know, like I think like watching you. And I just hope, that one of these days they'll wake up and realize that, hey, I want to be like her. Not because she's extra special, it's because like I want to be at that place we're in. I love myself too, and that's all I want. I don't monetize what I'm doing. I'm not here after fame. It's really like I love myself that I need to share it because that's the best way, especially for women. Women are so wonderful and powerful. You have that power to fight whatever. There's just so many distractions nowadays, and you can do it. You can actually do it by just loving yourself first. Then
Yeah.
everything else will follow. You know what I mean? You can fight whatever illness, negativity, or whatever if you find love. If you believe in yourself. I'm a big believer in that. Heal yourself first, right?
And that goes back to, you're absolutely right. It is really the key to all of this is self-love, and self-love sounds simple, but it is not easy
And
because
it's
we
a
have to
lifetime
show
journey. It's a lifelong
it.
journey.
Exactly. It's never, healing is never done because we're always healing from something, right? And tapping into self-love often requires you to tune out the noise of the people who are,
Right.
either actively hating on you or criticizing and bullying you, or even the people in our lives who love us and want the best for us. When they don't understand our journey, they tend to
Yes.
project
They
their
just judge you. Yeah.
and they judge us, and it takes a lot of courage to stay on the path of authenticity and self-love, because you're going to have a lot of people trying to discourage you off that path. And it can be difficult, especially for women, to go against the grain and to not be liked. It's like we're kind of taught that being likable is the most important thing. It's not.
It's
Being
not.
authentic is the most important
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
And also, I want to go back to what you're actually doing. Not everybody is going for it because, like there are differences in the way we do things. But I just want to keep emphasizing here that whatever works for you might not work for him or her. But you know what? Just be open. Stop the negativity. If you don't believe in the way that we healed or like the Reiki thing, it will work for others, that. So like if you're still in this mentality we're in, because I know, like I'm always on TikTok, and I see some of these things, and if you look at the comments, they're gonna be like those negative people who have their opinions on everything, you know what I mean, like what you do or what I believe in. But you know what, sometimes shush. If it doesn't work for you, let it will work for others, and nobody's bothering you. People found their healing in this way wherein you're not depending on anyone, you're not depending on medicine, you're not depending on anything else, but you were just going inward. So I'm just saying that whatever works for you might not work for others, but you know what, be open, just be open. And
and
I
and
don't I love.
and stop thinking that you know what's best for anybody else. Then like, there's no way, even the most educated doctors can't tell you what's best for you.
Yes,
Only you
yes.
know what's best for you. You can feel it, whether something's authentic for you or not, right? And when we give our power away, we're literally giving our power away. And when we're disempowered, that's when we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer with low self-esteem, and then
Right.
eventually physical and mental health challenges. It's so much more important. You use the word overlooked. It very much is overlooked, right? The importance of authenticity, the importance of
Yes.
self-love, the importance of you know living a life that feels good to you, as opposed to one that looks good to other people. It's the key. It really is the key.
It is. And what are you? Nobody's asking you to believe in anything but yourself. You know what I mean? So I don't think. I don't see anything negative, or I don't see anything wrong about it. It's actually the best way to heal. It's because you're finding who you are. You're using whatever strength you have. Your energy. Everybody has energy. Even if you talk about science, growing up, energy is part of you. Energy is part of your surrounding. You're just really
Everything is
finding.
energy.
I
Everything is energy.
know.
Absolutely everything. I mean, even, in the 1980s when I was taking science classes, we learned energy is neither created nor destroyed. And now with quantum physics, you know, every single thing, including
Right.
physical matter, is vibrating particles of energy, right?
Yes.
We are energy. And when we ignore that fact, it doesn't turn out very well for us,
Right.
right? So yeah, I completely agree with you, Candace.
And to be honest, just one more thing I learned: if you have nothing good to say, be quiet. Stop being negative. Like, I'm just so big
Right.
with, because I'm big with social media now, because it's part of my journey. It's part of how I show up and how I try to like impact. And I'm very vocal. When you have nothing nice to say, just be quiet. You know what I mean? Just
Well,
stop the
yeah, I mean,
negativity.
it's funny. We teach that to kindergartners, and yet we don't, as a
We're worse.
society,
Adults are worse than
way
kids.
worse, right? Imagine if we actually followed the rules that we told our children. The world would be a much nicer place.
I don't know. My dream and my hope really is kindness. We lack we it just it's just like global compassion. And
Yeah.
you know if I can do something just to change some, like people's hearts and the way they think, I've done my like I'm fulfilled, I'm happy.
I will say though that I'm glad you used the word kindness because that's very different than niceness, right? Because
Define. Okay,
kindness,
give me the difference for
yeah,
others.
kindness is rooted in truth, right? Kindness is
Yes,
about telling people what they need to hear. Niceness is about telling people what they want to hear.
it's
Being
yeah.
perpetually nice is just another arm of people pleasing, right? When you're not really being authentic, you're not saying how you actually feel or doing what you actually want to do. You're going along to get along, and I
Right.
call people pleasing self abandonment. I've stopped using the term people pleasing and I started calling it really what it is, which is self abandonment, right? So
Yes, yes.
kindness is really about following your truth and being truthful to others. And
Right.
if other people don't accept your truth, that's fine, right? It
Right.
doesn't make your truth any less true for you. If other people don't agree with your path, it doesn't make it any less your path.
Yes, 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 I agree with you. Very much agree with you. And you know what? Just what we're doing nowadays, podcasts, I think it's just a wonderful way to just um spread like all these things. You know what I mean? It's just a good way for others to know that this is real life, this is real stories, this is real solution to whatever life brings you. You know what I mean? Like you don't need a doctor, an expert sometimes to heal yourself or to help you with whatever you're dealing with. Sometimes just open a podcast, somebody that you can relate with, and you'll find answers to everyday issues that you're dealing with. Don't forget, just be open. Just be open. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I
Right. I
love that.
mean, the internet's not all good, as we all know. But I mean, at this point, if you have an internet connection, you have the ability to learn for free. I
And
mean,
then you know
there's
what?
people that you can learn from, and as with anybody, including us, take what resonates and leave the rest.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
we're not pretending to know what's best for anyone listening any more than we expect someone else to know what's best for us. At the end of the
right.
day, only we know that for ourselves. And
I
one of the
agree.
things I really lean on with my clients is developing self trust. This
Yes,
radical
yes,
idea that you know what's best for you and you don't need anybody else to tell you that. You might need some guidance and some coaching to have the courage to do that, and to really separate that ego voice in your mind from what your heart is truly telling you. That does take practice, but at the end of the day, you know whether it's someone I'm working with, as a Reiki healer or as a coach, I trust that they know themselves better than I know,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. And if at that point they say, hey, it's not working for me, okay, at least you tried. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're the only one who can say what's worse for you and not. But at least be open, right? Now, the series that I have this February talks about being solo and strong. And I know that many single parents focus on the struggles, but you've spoken about how your sons save your life. Beth, oh, I'm sorry, Kat. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
The one before you was Beth. Kat, I'm sorry. What are some of the positive aspects of solo parenting that people often overlook? And how has it shaped your personal growth?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a big part of the toxicity and that I experienced in my childhood was being a child of parents who were very unhappily married, but stayed together, until my father's death. And so, as much as I intended when I got married to be with my ex-husband forever, once our differences became irreconcilable, I never once considered staying, quote, for the kid.
Good,
I
good.
mean, I recognize that that parents don't need to be their kids don't need their parents to be married. They need their parents to be happy. Right? And there's no doubt in my mind on the other side of my divorce that my ex-husband and I are both much happier not being married to one another. And I think one of the greatest gifts of single parenthood is the ability to really be present with your children because you don't take that time for granted as
Right,
much, right?
right.
When you only see your children half the time. I mean, there are times where my boys will come back after, a few days with their father or a week if they were on vacation or something, and I can literally see the physical changes in them.
Right, right,
And,
right.
so it helps me not to take that time for granted and to really um, appreciate how fleeting their childhood is, and they're 11 and 14. They're not little anymore, but they're still
Right,
in
right, right.
the elementary and middle school years. And so I treasure those moments more. I
Right.
treasure the time that we spend together. I don't take it for granted. And when I say that they saved my life, I mean that literally because when I became suicidal at the age of 38, my kids were only 3 and 6 at the
Oh my
time. And
gosh.
I know for a fact that if I wasn't their mother, I would not be here. So
Right,
I
right.
credit them with not only giving me a reason to survive, but also finding the strength to thrive.
Right,
They
right.
deserve, they deserve a mom who's happy. They deserve a mom who's stable and who's authentic and is, I love that my kids see an example in me of someone who goes after her dreams, no matter what anyone
Right,
else thinks
right.
or says about that. I have plenty of haters. I have plenty of bullies. Knowing my whole story, there are plenty of people that think that I'm either stupid or crazy. Fine, they can think that, right? But they don't know what it's taken to get to this point, and they don't
Right,
know
right.
how much better this life feels than the life I was living, regardless of how it looks to anybody else.
And since because my series right now talks about being solo and strong, I've been meeting a lot of people and I've been learning the different ways they are solo. And two of them said that by doing this, by finally getting a divorce, they were able to break generational pattern. All right. They themselves grew up in a family wherein the parents were together, but they weren't in the same room. They weren't showing love, that they were there together for the purpose of being together. And they made a big decision to get a divorce. Yes, it's tragic in the beginning, but then he or she realized that I can be happy. You know what I mean? Like by actually going being solo, they were able to find themselves. Hard in the beginning, but eventually one of them said that I actually can give my child a happy life because I went through this path in my life. Like my child doesn't have to see us fighting. One even before you talked about cohabitating and co-parenting, which can actually work. And You know what I mean? So we shouldn't feel so bad if these things happen for us, because I believe that things happen for a reason. And being solo is not a weakness. It's actually, like what you said, it makes you feel stronger, or like you like it when your kids look up to you, happy, thriving, and just successful. And it's not easy, but you know what I mean, it's nice to know that I can be okay. You know what I mean? I can be okay. And um what happened to me, I didn't get divorced. It's because, like, my husband passed away. I've learned to use it as a way to completely change myself. Like, it's like, when will you ever get the chance to change yourself? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you need something to realize that I don't like who I was before. Like, this is now giving me a chance to completely overhaul myself and change. Like I can step into a new role. I can step into a new life and become the best version of myself. Um, it really allowed me to be strong. I really found myself, rediscovered myself, and I'm sure that my husband who passed away is happy for me. You know what I mean? Is happy for me, and he sees that I'm alone, but at least finding my best self. And it's the most amazing feeling when you can um um just be happy despite being solo. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and the oh gosh, I just forgot what I was gonna say.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Well, it's we can't change what's happened to us, right? But we
Yes.
can absolutely change our perspective on what's happened to us.
Mhm.
And what if the worst thing that's ever happened to you is actually the best thing that's ever happened to you, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it allowed you to change and transform and give yourself the motivation to do things radically different. I obviously didn't end my life in 2017, but I
Yes.
never completely changed the life that I was living. I ended the life that I was living in many ways, and I'm immeasurably happier on the other side of those changes. It wasn't easy, and nothing in life worth having is easy, right? It does
Right.
take hard work, but what work is more worth it than you actually being happy, that you actually feeling satisfied and loving yourself and being able to pour into others from that full cup, right? And
Right. Right.
fulfilling your life purpose. There's no better feeling than that. I mean, honestly, the only place that the feeling of satisfaction comes from is moving in the direction of your desires. Where
Right.
otherwise you feel stuck and sick and miserable, right? And plenty of people choose to live entire lifetimes stuck, sick, and miserable, and I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, me too. And to be honest, it doesn't mean love is over for us. And
No.
what's nice is that this period of being alone and solo, heal yourself,
Yeah.
so that when love strikes again, the second time, the third time, then you're ready. Then it's going to be long term, because I don't believe, I still believe in love. I'm a big believer of love. Like, I don't want to be alone forever. You know what I mean? Like, I love myself being alone, but I don't think it's the end for me. But I'm using this time to look at what didn't work before, or how am I gonna, like what you said, inward, love myself, so that when somebody comes in, they can share that love. Like, at least
And it's
I've worked on
so,
myself.
yeah, and it's so important. I just want to validate because actually after my marriage, I did enter a 4.5 year relationship, and it was a very, very toxic relationship. And I
Why?
know
So after your divorce?
after my divorce, yeah, and I see now that I really attracted that partner from an unhealed place. I really jumped into a new relationship, and I didn't love myself, and I was sacrificing way too much for way too little. And the effects of that are have been significant. So I would highly encourage you to stay single until you
You're
really
ready.
truly healed and you're
Okay.
truly happy within yourself, because then you'll attract a partner that enhances that, right? We attract what we are. The law
Yes,
of attraction
yes.
makes no mistakes, right? So when we're unhealed, we're going to attract unhealed people that are
I
going
love
to
it.
cause trauma and
Right.
additional suffering. So it's so important to love yourself before you fall in love. You really, the idea that other people give us love is not true. It really isn't.
It's a two-way thing. It's not just one side. It's just not, one person doing it. It's both.
It's
And
both.
I love that we mentioned it because they were able to look at two different perspectives. Me working on myself so that when the second love comes, I'm ready, and it's gonna be a good relationship. And you sharing that you entered another relationship when you were unhealed, so at least people will realize how important it is to heal first, love yourself first before you bringing another person into your life. And that's a big thing, what I mean. That's a big thing. And if it takes years, 4 or 5 years before you can finally say I'm ready for a second relationship, then it's okay, what I mean.
No
Then
rush.
no rush. No rush.
No.
But it's important, heal first before you bring another person into your life, but be open, don't.
Yeah, I mean, between the boyfriends that I had prior to my marriage and then my marriage and then the person I was with after that, I was in relationships for like 25 years straight. And
Wow.
now that I've been single, it's only been about 8 months. It's
Okay.
freeing. It really is. It's like, wow, I can really just focus on myself and, what do I want to do? How do,
Right,
and really be choosy. And, just because you're alone doesn't mean you're lonely, you know?
right.
My
And
dog
at
and I
this
are just fine.
Yeah, I know. And at this point, since we went through all this, we want the best person, the best partner. Like I'm going to be intentional. Like I
Yeah,
know who I want. Like I'm not going to settle for anything less because I've healed myself. I'm at my best version of myself. So I wouldn't let a partner come in and mess me up, you know what I mean? I now know who I want as a partner, for a partner. And I'm all very positive for my new love because I know I can offer this now because I love myself. So I know that it's gonna be a good one. You know what I mean? Do you get what I mean? Like,
I
like
do.
what you said, you attract who you are.
Yes. And we teach other people how to treat us based on how we treat
I
ourselves.
love that.
Right.
I
So
love
when
that.
we really love ourselves and we respect ourselves and we have boundaries and we have standards, that's a good thing,
Right.
and anyone who's repelled by that wasn't for you.
Yes, yes. And maybe they need their own
Whether it's
healing.
friendship or romantic, any
Right.
relationship, whether, if somebody's not treating you as well as you treat yourself, then that's your clue that they're not for you and
Yeah.
to move on and wait for you to attract the right person for you at the
Right.
right time. And, the divine is in charge of that. And I'm
Yes.
content. I'm content until that happens.
I love that. I love that. Whew, so I hate, we're an hour 30 and there's still a lot to talk about. But no, I always ask this before, like to all my guests. You've already shared so many wonderful message and lesson. If there is one concept, a quote or a topic that you want the viewers to remember you with or by, what would that be?
I think it's that to truly, only you truly know what's best for you, right?
Yes.
You are a
Yes.
completely unique person on this planet who has never existed before, will never exist again, and your very existence is a miracle. And
Yes.
nobody can give you a map to where they're not going and where they've never been, right? So do what feels best to you. It's absolutely essential to live. If you want to live a life that feels fulfilling and purposeful, you have to have the courage to be authentic, to
Right.
do what feels right to you, and to frankly not give a crap what other people say about that. So, yeah, I would say it's really about knowing that you are your you're, one of my, I didn't even plan to share this, but it's coming to my mind that one of my favorite things that I found out was the Sanskrit word for warrior means I am my own worst enemy.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you realize that the only person that's standing in the way of you living a
It's
life
you.
that feels amazing to you is you,
Yes.
and it's your people pleasing and your perfectionism and you're caring so much about what other people think about you, you're in complete control of your destiny. You can let
Yes.
all of that go and you can live a life that feels amazing to you. But it takes courage, and if you need a guide, I'm here for you.
Love it. I love it. And all you need to do is search, look for ways to help you, and it's right there. You just have to be open. Kat is here. I'm sure she offers virtual services.
Yeah.
Is that a possibility?
Yes, yeah. So the two main ways to work with me are, well, I do offer individual healing sessions, whether through Reiki. I offer a very unique style of mediumship called investigative
Okay.
mediumship, in which
Okay.
I will ask you some details about the loved one that you want to reconnect with, name, date of birth, date of death, hobbies, interests, anything that's going to really identify that person to you. And then I take that information, I meditate on their energy, and I open myself up to signs, and they flood me with signs that I can then present to my client
Okay.
after a week or so. And it's an amazing way, not just to reconnect with your loved one, but to actually show you how your loved one is communicating with you. Because your
Wow.
loved one is sending you signs. It's a matter of whether you're tuned into that and whether
Right.
you understand how spirit communicates. And then I have a monthly workshop. I do it on the second Wednesday of every month. I call it the Empath Workshop Series. So I work specifically with empaths and highly sensitive people and other family cycle breakers. So my Empath Workshop Series is, a monthly workshop that covers a topic that's relevant to being an empath and
Okay.
how to manage that. And then the highest way to work with me is through my Empath Empowerment Program, and that's a 6 month hybrid coaching program in which it's a combination of group coaching and individual healing sessions with me. I have a certified trauma therapist who's absolutely amazing on staff. I also have a human design and astrologer as well as a numerologist. And
Wow.
um, and we go through a 6 month program in which I teach you about complex trauma, how to heal trauma, and how to fully trust in yourself and the universe. And my goal is to really release you from that program and have you not need therapy for the rest of your life, right? To have all the tools that you need
Yes.
in order to truly heal and stay on the path of authenticity, as we've been saying.
I love it. And I want to make sure that when I share this podcast, that I will have all the links to Kat's, everything that Kat said. It's all going to be in my message when I finally share it in multiple social media so that you can directly contact her. Or if not, you can message me. I am also hiring like a marketing group to boost all my, my podcast. So hopefully it reaches more people because what you and I just had is so powerful. The conversation we had is so great and powerful. And I truly believe that thriving as a single parent is about really embracing intentional excellence. When we choose to grow, choose to heal, and build a life that feels aligned with who we are, that's how you know that something is working out for you. Kat, do you have any other parting words before we wrap up this podcast?
Just that this has been such a fun conversation, and
Yes.
we're so aligned in how we view the world, and how we have healed through the worst things that have happened to us have actually become the best things that have ever happened to us, right? And I'm just so grateful for the invitation and to
Yes.
have the chance to speak to your audience. So thank you so much for having me.
And also, I just want the viewers to know that just be open. There are so many ways that you can help yourself. Don't be stuck to the old ways. Like, just, healing by finding your own self and your energy, your basing it on your own strength and your ability to heal is more powerful than any other thing because this is long term. and just be open and you know, find ways to heal, because that's the best place you can be, when you can finally say that I'm okay, and nothing is going to be hard for you, when you know that things are there for a reason, and things are there because it makes you stronger.
Right.
Just
And
be
that you have
open.
the tools within you, right? The
Yeah,
answers are within you. They really are. They're not outside of you. They're within you. So when you have that skill set and that toolbox, if you will, anything life throws at you, yes, there's going to be challenges and obstacles, but you're going to know how to maneuver around them, and you're not going to have to rely on anybody but yourself.
you just mentioned that. That's also another one of my keynote talk, that we have the skills, the sets, the everything, the strength in us. Sometimes you just have to cultivate it. It's you. There's nothing that we can't do, because we already have it in us, within us. You just have to be intuitive. You just have to learn to find it. Don't ever say that you can't do anything, because you have the strength, you have the skill, you have everything in you. It's just finding it,
Yes.
right? Or learning. If you don't have it, be open to learning, right? So I
Right.
thank you for that. You just gave me a way, another reason to explain to them that also is one of my keynote talk, because I believe in that. Everybody has the toolbox. Everybody has their own ways to be their best self. I love
Yeah.
that. All right. So to all of our listeners, if you're navigating life as a single parent, remember that being solo and strong is not about doing it all alone. It's about building resilience, finding joy in the journey, and intentionally creating a life that reflects your values and purpose. And if you love this episode, make sure, subscribe, leave a review, and share with us, share with someone who might need to hear this. And until the next time, keep striving for intentional excellence in all that you do. I want to say good evening, Kat.
Good
Pleasure
evening.
to have you here.
Thank you.
And good evening to everyone. Thank you for always tuning in. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.